Bucket List Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Lynn, and I live in Eastern Ontario, Canada with my husband David of 31 years, high school sweethearts, our daughter Grace, who is 21, and our son Aiden, who is 17, almost 18. We are a military family-ish. My husband retired from full-time military after 30 years of service, and he rejoined into the reserves almost 4 years ago. So we're still a military family. My husband has done many tours overseas, including 3 tours to Afghanistan. Our children are neurodivergent. Our daughter Grace is autistic, and our son Aiden has Tourette syndrome. I am a 4-time cancer survivor, and that is where the homestead that we are currently living in. We bought our home almost 11 years ago. We're on about 3 acres. It came out of a bucket list of things that we made that we wanted to have or do when I beat cancer, not if. And this is where at the top of the list was a home with lots of land for our children to run and play. They were quite young still then. I wanted chickens, I wanted a huge garden, I wanted apple trees. I eventually want, more chickens, I want a milking cow, you name it. This is what we wanted, and this is how it started 11 years ago. Today's video is part of a collaboration that I have joined with my friend Sean from She's in Her Element, and Leslie from Edic Family Homestead is also joining us, and Carissa from At a City Girl Homestead. Sean has been doing her own Canuary for several years now. I myself do a lot of canning in January. I don't necessarily never really called it anything before other than cleaning out my freezer canning, but I love doing a collaboration. I love it when it's a theme. So this is right up our alley with the month of January. Today we're going to be doing a water bath canning recipe, and it's one of my favorites, and it's a simple one. And we're going to be using a wonderful ingredient to make blueberry jam, and that is Pomona's Universal Pectin. Love this stuff. So what makes Pomona's Pectin so different? It does not contain any sugar, preservatives, or other ingredients. What it does contain is low methoxyl citrus pectin, which means its gelling power is activated by calcium, which comes in a separate packet in the box, rather than by sugar. With Pomona's, you can sweeten your jam in almost any way and to almost any degree without affecting its ability to gel. So maybe you like to sweeten your jelly or jams with honey or maple syrup. With Pomona's Pectin, you can and not have to worry about it not gelling. The other great thing about Pomona's Pectin, you can double, triple your recipe and not have it affect the outcome, which and with traditional pectins, that's not always the case. Believe me, I know. I tried doubling a strawberry jam recipe one time with traditional pectin, and it was a disaster. So I highly recommend Pomona's Universal Pectin. I will link it down below. You can buy it in bulk on Amazon or in the box. I have more calcium water left than I do pectin, so I'm going to be putting an order in when I need more for the canning season for just the pectin, I think, because I don't need more calcium water. A little goes a long way. It lasts you quite a while. We had stopped eating a lot of jams and jellies, and I know it was because of all the sugar. 8 to 9 cups of sugar is in your traditional strawberry or blueberry jam recipe using traditional pectin. This recipe is going to have 1 cup, and it is delicious. You taste blueberries, not sugar. And the recipe is from the Preserving with Pomona's Pectin by Allison Carol Duffy. I always forget the middle one. As you can see, this is a well-loved book. These are all my favorite jams or jellies or preserve recipe that are in this. I will link this down below. This is a fabulous resource, and it's using Pomona's Universal Pectin as the ingredient. And like I said, 1 cup of sugar versus 8 or 9, I am all down for. I didn't make a lot of jams this past summer because, like I said, we have stopped eating it, but the blueberry jam is one of my favorites. I love adding it to my yogurt. It's one of my favorite ways to sweeten up unsweetened yogurt. And knowing it has a lot less sugar is all part of my less sugar year this year. So this is the pectin, okay, and this is the calcium water.
In my excitement to bring you this recipe, I forgot to let you know that this calcium comes as a powder form in a packet, and you add it to a 1/2 cup of water to make the calcium water.
You are going to have more than you need for this one recipe. One of these little boxes does anywhere between 3 to 4 batches of jams or jellies or preserves, depending on what you're making. And you just put it in a jar with a lid and keep it in your refrigerator, and it lasts, I don't want to say forever, because does anything really last forever other than honey? It lasts a long, long time. So we're going to be using that today. So this recipe only requires 2 teaspoons of the pectin and 2 teaspoons of the calcium water. You do add them at different parts in the recipe, and we'll get to that in a minute. First, I thought I'd just let you know what you're going to need for this recipe. So you're going to need 4 cups of blueberries, which are already in my pot over on the stove, and we'll go over there in a minute. And I am using wild blueberries because that's what I got last summer, because I was so excited to get wild blueberries. They're my favorite. I'm a Maine girl. That's what I grew up. They have the most flavor. They're the best for baking. So we're gonna make some jam, and I have so many in my freezer. So this kind of follows along with the pantry challenge, and I'm using up some blueberries out of my freezer and some other things that were in my pantry. 4 cups of blueberries, a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, 2 teaspoons of calcium water, as I said, 1 cup of sugar, and 2 teaspoons of pomonaspectin. That's it. And it's going to make the most amazing, delicious blueberry jam you have had, I promise. So I always like to have all my stuff already ready before I even start making the jam. So I have 6 jars here. It typically makes 4 to 5 jars, but I always have 1 or 2 extra just to make sure. These are all been washed. I went around and ran my finger around all the rims to make sure there was no chips or cracks or anything. You always want to make sure, or you're not going to get a good seal, and you're going to have product floating around in your canner, or worse, it will spoil while it's on the shelf. I also have my 4 jar lids all washed and ready to go. You do not have to boil these anymore. The silicone that they use now, it actually can just be destroyed by boiling it. These are my favorite lids. I love these. I've been using these pretty much exclusively for about 3 years now. They are a wonderful company. I actually got a tour of their facility back in April, and they're a wonderful family, very family owned. All 5 brothers are involved in the parents somehow in this company. They're in Florida. They're a great product. I have not had a failure, and I mean, I have canned thousands with these jars, lids rather. They are amazing. And if you would like 10% off your own 4 jar lids, I'll put my code up here on the bottom. And in the description and the pinned comments below will be the link that will take you directly to 4 Jars Canada or USA. I would not promote these and recommend them if I didn't love them myself. I also have my rings ready. I have a damp cloth for wiping off the rims of the jars when we're done filling. I have my favorite funnel ready to go. And you're gonna need some kind of a stir stick. David actually got me this for Christmas. It slides out of here, but it's also got a magnet for picking up lids or anything metallic, so it's pretty handy. And we are good to go. Oh, and I also have a canning mat. This is just one that I make. I make my canning mats, I crochet them. You need to have something underneath your jars. My jars are also going to be warmed up a little bit because I'm going to be putting a hot jam into these jars, so we want them to be warmer than these. Are pretty cold right now, so I'd like them to be a little bit warmer, so I'm just going to warm them up a bit, and we are ready to go make the jam. So I have my water bath canner going. It's came to a boil, and I've just lowered it so it doesn't boil away while we work on making the actual jam. I have 4 cups of my blueberries in my pot here, and I'm going to turn it on probably about a medium heat. And I'm just going to smush them up a bit. Okay. I like mine left a little bit chunkier because I do like the bits of blueberry in my jam. So we're going to add a 1/4 cup of the lemon juice. And we're going to add our calcium water to the lemon juice in the blueberries. And we need 2 teaspoons. So 1 and 2. Turned up the heat, and we're gonna cook this and bring this to a boil, and then we're going to add our 1 cup of sugar, and it will have our 2 teaspoons of pectin in the sugar, and we're gonna slowly add it to the blueberry calcium water and lemon juice. I use organic cane sugar, so they're pretty much the same color as the pectin, but it is in there, and I'm just gonna give that a stir. Our blueberries have come to a boil, and we are going to slowly add our pectin and sugar, stirring constantly, and we're going to cook for about 1 to 2 minutes just to make sure the pectin has dissolved. I heated up my jars actually right in my canner. I plopped them down in there for a few minutes while the blueberry jam was cooking. I used to heat them up in the oven, but then I was reading that they don't recommend it because they're saying the dry heat is not good for them. It's different than the wet heat. I'm not a scientist, I don't understand, but I thought I better stop doing it. So I just plopped them down in for about 5-10 minutes in the boiling water while the jam is making. So they are really hot now, and I just took them out. We are going to fill with a 1/4 inch headspace, which I didn't have quite enough for one more full size 250 milliliters. So I got my 125 milliliter, and it's already gelling. It's pretty much jam. So we are going to do bubble. Make sure we get any bubbles out. And I think everyone is still the perfect headspace. Okay, and then we are going to wipe off these rims because, yes, they are messy. And we want our, oh, that's hot, that jar. We want our lids to seal. So make sure you get all that sticky jelly off. Put our rings on, not too tight. What I like to do is I tighten them like this, give them a twist this way and twist back, and that works perfect for me. So tighten, twist back. Tighten, twist back. And when I say tighten, I'm not tightening, they're not very tight. Okay, now I can't find my jar lifter. With all the renovations and the moving things around, so we're going to use our jar holder here and lower this into the canner. And these are going to process for 10 minutes. You should always have something between your jars and your bottom of your canner, whether that is a towel. Sometimes I use my shelf that comes with my pressure canner. Sometimes I use that, but this came with this new canner I got, so this is perfect. Okay, and we do need to add a little bit of water to our canner. We just want the jars just to be covered. And we don't have quite enough in there. So we're going to turn the heat back up, and we don't start our 10 minutes until they're at a full rolling boil again. So we're going to let those sit for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we will lift them out and put them on our canning mat. I prefer putting them on a canning mat. If you're not putting them on a wood surface, you should put them on a canning mat because, you know, they could break. I found my jar lifter. Yay, I remembered where it was. So that gives me time to finish my tea while those sit for 5 to 10 minutes. Jars of blueberry jam to go back on my shelf, which is great because I think I have 1 jar left. So I will let these sit here for 24 hours, minimum of 12. Usually it's a full 24 for me. Take off the rings. You should never store your canned goods with your rings on because they could come unseal and reseal again and you wouldn't know it. Ugh, you don't want that. So yes, I'll remove the rings. I'll give everybody a quick wipe down, make sure there's no blueberry jam on the outside. I'll mark them because they look just like elderberry syrup, and ask me how I know that. I will mark them, I always put the year, even though we're usually eating them way before we need to worry about it, and onto the shelf they'll go. And that will be the end of our first video for Canuary 2025. See you here next week for our next canning recipe. Take care, friends, and God bless.